Okay. Now I'm David Norris. I'm the artist of the month these last 2 months here at Old Books on Front Street.
First person to have 2 months, yeah?
Well, okay. I've set a world's record then.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a look at this picture above you. Tell us a little bit about it, David.
This building is it's one of the downtown Wilmington buildings. The Flynn Building, I believe it was called. It was a saloon when it was built in the 1890s, and it always seemed like an interesting building with the terracotta design and that little kind of round turret or tower up at the front. So that's one of the buildings I chose to do a drawing of.
Okay, we're going to move over here, and let's take a look at this beautiful depiction of our riverfront. Tell us about this.
This is a view of the Wilmington riverfront. It's done in ink wash. It's mainly brown ink and then just diluted with water to get different shades, different effects with the ink.
What time of year did you do this?
I believe it was in the, I think spring or early summer. I think we took a boat tour, one of those taking the, was that the Captain John D. Maffitt going across the river to the battleship, and you get to see a lot of the waterfront. So I shot a whole bunch of pictures. It was one of those. So I was out in the river about 100 feet, I guess, from the shore.
It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And then over here we have one of a couple of pictures of St. Mary's. Yeah?
Yeah, the St. Mary's Church, the architecture is always, it's fascinated me with that sort of Mediterranean style, the Romanesque domes and arches and so on. So I've done several drawings of it at different times of day. You can get the sun, as the sun moves across the sky and the shadows move from one side to the other, you get really interesting compositions. And so I've been back to it at several different times a day and made a lot of pictures.
How did you choose this particular part of the building with this light and shadow?
It just looked like an interesting composition. I usually work with photographs, and so I kind of played with it, cropped it a little bit. But I wanted something. It had a lot of interesting angles, and then of course the textures of the brick and so on.
It's beautiful. You do light and shadow just beautifully. And then this, I think, might be my favorite of what we've got so far.
That's down at the foot of Market Street and Water Street down by the river. And I took the picture because I liked how the building was reflecting in the water. And that's what interested me in it. And so, and then like having the brickwork on the sidewalk and the street, having that show through too. But I thought it was an interesting array of textures in the composition.
It's gorgeous. It really is my favorite. And then a landmark many of us recognize.
Yeah, this was it's back when this place was the Shawnee before the Copper Penny was there, and originally it was the Star News building at
Really?
turn of the century.
You're kidding? That's where the Star News was?
Yeah, saw that in some of the Wilmington history books that I've looked at.
It's great having a historian who's an artist.
Oh.
All right, another shot of St. Mary's.
Yeah, it's another, just a composition I thought was interesting with the light and shadow.
Anything in particular you want to tell us about this? The sky, anything like that? No?
Well, it's hard to think of anything in particular. I added just a hint of sky at the top to the background. I thought it made it a little more interesting.
Marvelous. All right, we're going to go see the Bellamy Mansion now.
All right.
Yay! We get to kind of walk through the bookstore and see other things too along the way.
Okay.
Look at this. Isn't that gorgeous? Why the Bellamy?
Well, it's a landmark building in Wilmington, and it again at different times of day. The way it's situated on that hill on Fifth Street, it takes light beautifully in the late afternoon, especially in the winter, although this is a summertime drawing. But it changes so much at different times of day, and I could have done 100 different compositions, just different angles of the house and playing with the play of light and shadow across the front. I'm actually working on a similar one that's got completely different lighting.
Really?
I just was curious about trying it something different, and so I'm doing something like that, but with different lighting, see what it looks like.
Is the piece you're working on still going to be pen and ink?
Yes, it's similar style. It's just when I finished it, I had another picture with different. It was at a different time of day and different time of year, and I thought, well, that might look cool. And so I was trying it like that too, just to see what it's going to look like.
Companion pieces.
Something like that.
All right, let's go up a little bit here.
Matton's done. It's got as a view. It's got the old First Presbyterian Church downtown and some of the other rooftops, and that's using pencil and watercolor, just kind of soft watercolor washes. But I want to get the effect of kind of a thunderstorm rolling in and rolling out on a spring day.
Okay, and we're going to move a little bit this way and up again, and we're going to look at the beach.
Okay, now that's the jetty down at Masonboro Inlet at Wrightsville Beach, and it's a great spot for taking pictures between you. Just the way the tide is and the amount of surf you get, it splashes on that masonry wall, and of course you've got that rock jetty way out in the background, and that attracts a lot of seabirds. Of course you get a lot of fishermen too, so there's always something interesting down there, so it's a good spot for taking pictures and working some of them into drawings later.
Is it hard to do a seascape in black and white?
I don't think. I think it's an attractive topic because of the textures of the waves, and that's really what I do. I mean, it's one way to look at the sea. If you're painting in color, you look at the colors, because the color of the ocean's different. Every time you go down there, it's going to be different because the time of day and the light and the clouds reflect light back on the ocean, so the color of the clouds affects the ocean, and you can spend all your thought going into the color. But if you do black and white, then you look at the waves and the texture, and maybe of course the texture of the clouds and the pattern, and so it's just a different way of looking at it.
Beautiful. And
there are aspects you wouldn't notice. You probably wouldn't notice them in color because you'd be looking at the colors instead.
Beautiful. All right, let's look at a piece familiar to Wilmington theater goers.
That's the doorway of it's the old Masonic building, but now it's for the doorway for level 5. And I was fascinated just going by right about noon. The sun's very high in the sky, and it's just really brought out the texture of that old soft worn sandstone and that elaborate carving around the front. So I thought it would make an interesting drawing.
Okay, and let's go look at this. Oh, isn't this beautiful? Tell us about this.
Well, along Roundel Parkway, there's a big patch of undeveloped land. Some of it's been cleared, but it leaves kind of a stand of pine trees around it. But it makes it feel like you're way out in the country. Especially this was a Saturday morning. It was just had very thick mist and fog, and so I had taken a walk along there and took a lot of pictures. And this is a watercolor that came out of one of those.
Okay. What do we have here? Oh, the riverfront again.
Yeah, that's similar to that other view of the riverfront. I possibly took it the same day from a different angle, and was just working it in a different style with the pen and ink.
How do you choose if you're going to do what medium to use?
Oh, something might strike me. It may be if I'm going after texture or light and shadow, I may want one style, and sometimes if it's more linear, I'll choose maybe some kind of a brush style maybe. But it's just hard to say. Some things that just strike me as being appropriate for one style or another. And sometimes I feel like doing a drawing in a particular style, and then I'll just pick a subject I like and go with it that way.
Marvelous. All right, and now we're going to take a quick move over here, see some books for a second, and voila! What do we have here? Isn't this gorgeous?
Well, that's a bamboo brush and ink wash drawing. That's Bradley Creek at Airlie Gardens, but this place where I've done a lot of drawings from being in Airlie, and a lot of times I'm taking photographs and working them up later on. But it's just it's what, a 67-acre garden, but I mean it's just an infinite number of places to look and see and to make pictures. I mean, I think I could do. I think I could do 1,000 pictures just in early gardens and be quite happy just to do that. Would always find something new.
Alright, and let's look up here above the beautiful Miss Carol's head. What do we see here? Oh, that's lovely. Is this Bradley Creek again?
Yes, that's another view of that down in the early gardens. I just that low hanging pine branch got my attention, and so that was kind of the focal point of it. And then just working in the background, and every time you go down there, of course, the creek's affected by the tide, and then that brings the oyster reefs out, or it covers them back up, and it changes the compositions every day, every time you go down there. You can go one day and have a big expanse of silvery creek, and the next day it looks like little islands cut up by channels and creeks and so on. So you never know what you're going to get till you get down there.
Okay. What do we have here?
And that's another view of that area on Randall Parkway that's not built up yet. But again, it was just trying a different view of that field with the row of pines in the distance, and then the feeling of that kind of moist, misty day.
And over here, we have got, it looks like some working boats.
Yeah, that's one of a fishing boat. That's the Miss Betty from Carolina Beach. That's a picture. It's from a photograph of the boat going through Masonboro Inlet down at Wrightsville Beach. But I've enjoy doing the fishing boats, any kind of working boat, especially the fishing boats, tugboats, the ocean-going ships. To me, they're really interesting compositions, and especially you get these older trawlers with the wooden hulls and the booms and rigging. It's reminiscent of a sailing ship, having just so much rigging in the mast and so on. So it makes some interesting subjects to me.